Pastor Craig Fourman, one of the co-pastors here at Abiding Christ Lutheran Church, and I'm the convener for the Lutheran Saints in Ministry. I was a very sickly child, had asthmatic problems and allergies, and so I spent a lot of my time indoors, but worked very hard to overcome it. I was a Boy Scout, I played football, and I played tennis when I was older. Always was very curious and interested in history, and especially military history. I remember growing up, I had we were celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Civil War. And so from 1961 to 65, I had uniforms and guns and toy soldier sets and everything you could imagine. Probably around this room there's some of my collection, mostly at home I keep that collection. The two things I collect are sailing ships and soldiers. And my interest has gone quite beyond the Civil War. I now have interests that go all the way back to ancient Rome, ancient Egypt, ancient Greece. Yeah, well, of course, collecting soldiers is one of my hobbies, but I'm also an avid guitar player and I love music. I was actually a music major in college and wanted to be a band director when I went to school originally down in Morehead State in Kentucky. But I discovered that I didn't quite have the discipline to practice. Although I still play my trombone for church and for civic band, I still sing quite a bit, but the guitar became my hobby, and I still play the guitar very avidly, both here in church and at home. Well, I think of two in particular. One was a teacher that I had through high school. His name was John Adams. Long drink of water, but he was just a person who had a deep and abiding influence and enthusiasm for politics, geopolitics, history, smoked a pipe, played basketball when he was growing up, and was a lifelong West Miltonian. Just really clicked with him, and we became friends, and I stayed friends with him until his dying day. Also, another teacher of mine, Dean Stitz, who was my band director and went to church with me for years at Good Shepherd in West Milton. And the other one I'd have to say is one of my pastors, a couple of them actually, an older pastor named Paul Schnurr, who was retired when I was 12. Broke my heart when he retired, but he was a terrific pastor. And then, of course, Dale Truscott, who was the pastor when I was a young man going into college, and eventually was the one who sort of nurtured me into the ministry. I can't even imagine what it's like not to be in the church. I had a sort of a journey getting here. I was in the business world for many years. I taught school for a while, and I enjoyed all those things and was successful to one degree or another. But the reason that I'm not doing those things is because I just felt a very strong and persistent calling to parish ministry. They tried to get me to teach, they tried to get me to do a lot of things, and I just kept resisting it. I didn't want a PhD, even though they tried to get me to get one. I just wasn't interested in going to school. All I wanted to do was be a parish pastor, and here I am, 30 years here at Abiding Christ and 36 years altogether, parish pastor. Second career for me, but kind of a first love. I was 6 years in the furniture business. My family owned a furniture store, Work Furniture, out of Laurel, Ohio, and they had two branches, one here in Fairborn actually, and one in Franklin. I actually managed the Franklin and the Fairborn stores early on, so this is not my first time in Fairborn. It's my second time in Fairborn. First time was in the late 70s, before I was even married. I had a mother that I visited when I was an internship who had her name was May Green, and she had a son, and we used to talk about what a faithful man he was, and her answer was, well, he just didn't know any better. That's the way he was raised. I'd have to say the same thing. I didn't know any better. In fact, I'm glad I didn't know any better. I was the way I was raised. Like many people, I've had times when I was not centered in my faith as well as I could. I've been a charismatic Christian. I've been an indifferent Christian when I was a young man. But for most of my life, I've been a very solid and stolid liturgical Lutheran. I love the church, and I've always been, kind of in the bosom of Mother Church. I believe in the institutional church. I believe in what it stands for. I believe in what it can do. I believe in what a gathered people have the power to do. It's been a very difficult time right now, not being able to gather. But I'm also learning that there's new strengths in what we have and what we do, even apart. So learning a new appreciation at the age of 65 for what it means to be church. Well, the older I've gotten, the more introverted I've become. And I've always kind of leaned on the side of introversion. When I do the Myers-Briggs profiles, I'm right on the line, and I always kind of fall over on the I side. Interestingly, though, this time of COVID has made me appreciate my extroverted part a lot more. While I've enjoyed being with my wife, which we've really not had much chance to be alone together since the kids left the house, really kind of learning to know each other. It's been a wonderful thing. And of course, the constant concern about not being with the people that I love, can't go visit them when they're sick. That goes with the territory. But what I'm also learning is a renewed appreciation for people. Being in small crowds and yearning for larger crowds, I think I'll be ready for this enforced isolation to be over. Maybe even more than the average extrovert who's probably really hungering for that company. I'm learning a new appreciation for that company, and I think that's a good time in life to learn a new skill when you're going on 66 years old.